What would happen if instead of having a NASA alliance, all the top contenders, all the principals stood for president? What would happen? Well, somebody tried to say, that means by 8 o'clock in the morning or by 9, Jubilee will have won, there'll be no opposition. But think about it a little more deeply. Each of those principals is a potential presidential candidate, and each of them is fighting to be flag bearer of NASA. Now, if they stood alone, it would mean that they would have the total support of their particular tribes. And it would therefore mean that it would be even more difficult for Jubilee to get the 50+1 to win, which means there will be around 2. So, doesn't it make sense for each, instead of squabbling over who will be the presidential candidate, wouldn't it make a lot of sense for each person to stand on his own, finance their own presidential campaign, go into the ballot, each party takes their candidate to the ballot, and then after the votes are counted, obviously there'll be a winner amongst them. And then that winner will go on to round 2, and before they go on to round 2, they can then make their deals. And I assure you this time there'll be no fight over the presidency, because when they make their deal at that juncture, already we'll have a winner, or rather somebody who has come second. So what will happen is that they'll just make a deal, and it will be much easier to negotiate such a deal. Now, this is a very interesting scenario. And in my view, it is a very viable scenario. We could avoid a lot of the hula baloo, a lot of the problems we have had within NASA. And at the same time, a lot of the problems would be neatly solved. So that what would happen is that everybody gears up for coalition going to round 2. Of course, the big danger here, and I think this is what the opposition is trying to avoid in having the coalition ahead of the elections, is that after round 1, it is very possible that Jubilee could snap up one of the other contenders, one of the other people who are supposed to be in NASA. But this is politics, and it's not a crime if they did that. But I think that is the fear. But if it were possible for each of the candidates to run individually, if they're able to trust each other, maybe make a pact before the elections, that none will go to the other side, none will go to the government side, or rather the incumbent side, then this could be a very viable solution to the current crisis we have within NASA. It would solve a lot of problems. It's something to think about, something well worth thinking about. This is Chris Kumekucha. Thank you for listening to me. Bye.